What is up, guys? Got another video for you today, and this is actually going to be the first video on editing that I have done on this channel, so I'm super excited to show you guys some of these tips. I have 5 tips that are going to take your videos from like down here somewhere, and hopefully we can get them way up here somewhere. You guys know on this channel I try to get tips and things that you guys haven't heard before, not the same things that you guys have seen in a bunch of other channels. I try to put together some unique things that hopefully you might not know and you might not have heard about before, so it can really affect how you guys are actually making your videos. So that's exactly what I've done today. I've put together my favorite things that I feel like are gonna have the hugest impact on your videos when editing, and some of these things completely change the way that I edit video and how I look at videos, and I'm hoping that it can do the same for you guys. If you guys noticed, I just recently uploaded another video that's like kind of a travel video style thing, which first of all, I'm really happy to upload again on my channel because I haven't uploaded something like that in quite a while. But what I wanted to mention is if you guys haven't seen that video, it might be in your best interest just to go check that one out first, because I'm gonna be referring to it a little bit throughout this video. So you guys can go hop on over to that one, check it out, let me know what you think of it, and then come back to this one and we'll get into some of the tips and the techniques that I use to actually put that video together. Straight up, I'm starting with an absolute game changer of a tip, because this completely transformed the way that I edit videos and how I look at clips when I'm cutting together, and that's gonna be cutting for the eyes. So let me show you this little clip that I've put together here with a few different videos in it, and I want you guys to try and notice while you're watching it where are your eyes focusing on the screen and what part of the frame are you looking at in each clip, and notice when it changes where your eyes change to in the new scene. So let's check out this clip and I'll explain to you guys what I mean. Hopefully you guys noticed that there's some point of interest or a subject in each one of those frames. Generally, if you guys are doing a good job at your composition and actually getting your shots, there should sort of be a part of the frame that your eyes are naturally drawn to and that the viewer is going to focus on more than the other part of the image. Now, what you want to do is when you're cutting between 2 clips is you want to try and keep the focus point in that frame in the general same area when you cut between those 2 clips. So for example, if your first frame ends with your subject or point of interest being all the way on the left side of the frame, and then your next clip has the point of interest all the way on the right side of the frame, as that clip cuts, it's going to be quite jarring, and the viewer's eyes are going to all of a sudden have to readjust, figure out where they're supposed to be looking in that frame, and then once they do, absorb what's going on. If you cut between 2 clips where the viewer's eyes stay looking in the same place at the end of the first frame and the beginning of the second frame, it's a nice smooth transition and those clips are going to flow nicely together. So you can see in this first clip, as it cuts to the second one, your eyes should be looking in the same place, and now they might move around frame again, but by the time it gets to the end of that clip, your eyes are going to be in a certain place, and that's going to line up with the next clip again. So this doesn't mean that throughout your whole video the eyes have to be focused on a certain side or only in the center. If you guys are doing a really good job with your composition, your eyes should be able to be led through that frame, just like as in a photo, where your eyes might start in one place and they're directed through that frame into another place, but you just need to notice where they're starting and ending and try and line those clips up. You can definitely move the eyes around and then start your one clip with someone on the left, for example. They'll move their eyes using your composition. Maybe it's like some cool leading lines that shift the eyes that way, and then end on the right, and then your next clip can start on the right as well. If you guys can figure this out, it really does make a difference. I know it sounds like a little bit complicated, but as soon as you start to notice it while you're editing it, you'll see what I'm talking about. And if you ever go back and watch any of your other videos or other people's videos where they don't do this, if you notice a hard cut, a lot of the time it will be because they're not lined up in the same place. This rule can definitely be broken, and you guys need to figure out when best to use it. For example, you might want to cut between clips that have the focus point in different areas, so when you do get to that second clip, you can play it for a bit longer, because now all of a sudden the viewer isn't sure where they're supposed to be looking in frame. They have to first figure it out, then move their eyes to where they're supposed to be looking, and then absorb what's going on before the frame cuts to the next shot. So you can use this, but in general, unless you're doing it for a specific reason, try and keep the eyes in the same place and guide them around that frame smoothly and control them in the way that you want to control them. It's going to make your edit just flow and be really smooth, and hopefully if you do it right, the viewer won't even notice what you're doing. Tip 2 is also going to be about cutting, and this one is going to be about cutting with movement. Using movements in your cuts is one of my favorite ways to line up different clips. You can use the movement of what's going on in the video and the subject in the video, but you can also use the movement of the actual camera, like camera movement itself. For example, if you guys are cutting between clips that your videos are all moving in one direction, if you are going left to right, for example, and then the next clip is also going left to right, and then the next clip is also going left to right, or however you want to do it, this also creates a really nice flow to your edit, and those clips cut together in a really smooth way. You can get as creative as you want with this. It doesn't have to be a direction like that. You can be going up or down. You can be going in or out. You can get as creative as you like, but it really creates a nice feeling when you cut between two clips that are doing the same sort of movement. As far as the actual movement in frame, you can do them both together, or you can do one or the other. If you guys watch any of my B-roll demonstration videos, you'll know that I often say keep your subject going in the same direction throughout the video. It just makes a nice continuity throughout it. You don't want to have them going opposite ways the whole time. It's the same with like a montage style video. Keep them all flowing in the same way, or they can be going away from you, or they can be coming towards you, and you can mix it up, but getting a few of these clips in a row always looks really nice. I have a couple of examples that I want to show you guys here. This first one right in the opening sequence of this video is actually, you'll notice the first drone shot opens with it panning up, and then the next three sequential shots are all kind of like pans up or slides up shots, and it flows together. I did them quite quickly and just creates this cool thing like boom, 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 boom. Really nice way to edit. And then that next shot, I just added a little bit of upwards movement afterwards in post in Premiere, because I wanted it just to flow nicely into that last drone shot. And when I actually filmed it, it wasn't going straight. Adding camera movement in Premiere is something we're gonna talk about a little bit later in this video. So I'm not gonna harp on that too much right now, but I'm gonna come back to that in a bit. Here is another little example that I wanna show you guys where we're moving the camera left to right, but the subject in the frame is also moving left to right. And when we cut between them quite quickly, it really makes this like cool little effect, and you do them quite fast. It looks really awesome. So let's check out this little example. Yeah, so I kind of like the way that that scene turned out. And if you actually notice in the last shot, the drone shot of the beach and the palm trees, the camera movement is actually moving in the opposite direction to all of the previous shots. But the subject, which is the palm trees, is taking up enough of the frame that that's still moving left to right, and it creates the illusion that that shot is still going in the same direction. And in my opinion, they still flow really nicely together like that. So get creative with it, experiment with it. If something is big enough in frame, it might be able to trick the eyes into thinking that the direction is still going in the same way. Here's a little bonus tip for when you guys are editing something like this. If you have a few clips that you want to put together, but one of them isn't going in the same direction, you can flip it in Premiere Pro by using like a horizontal flip or a vertical flip, depending on which way you're wanting it to go. But basically you can see here that this clip is going in the opposite direction to the other ones. So I can simply just flip it, and now all of a sudden our camera movement is going to be going in the same direction as the other clips, and it's going to flow in there really nicely. Just be careful on which clips you actually do this on, because you can't just flip any image over for obvious reasons. Maybe some of your footage is going to turn out really weird, but for the most part, if it's some sort of landscape or something like that where the viewer isn't going to notice that flip it over and you can use that clip, and that little sequence works perfectly. Tip 3 is gonna be cutting to the beat and creating pacing in your video. So you need to keep this in mind, especially when you're editing to music, but you can definitely apply this when you're not using music in your video as well, just to create a nice pacing to your video that holds the viewer's attention for a little bit longer. Let me explain to you what I'm talking about cutting to the beat and how you can actually cut to a beat even if you don't have music in the background. You wanna create different little pockets of how fast you cut between clips. For example, you don't want to have a little video where each one of your clips plays out for the exact same amount of time every time. If you have like 4 clips in a row and you cut to the same beat every time in that song or whatever, it's going to become predictable to the viewer. It's going to be boring, and the viewer's almost going to expect the next cut. They're going to know when it's coming, and that makes it boring. What you want to try and do is create little pockets of different speeds and different cut paces in that little video. It's going to make it unpredictable for the viewer. It's going to hold their attention more. They're not going to be sure what's happening next. I want to show you guys 2 different little examples here. These are both the exact same clips in the same order, but I've just cut them in different ways in different parts of the music. So check out this first example. They're all going to be the exact same length, and you guys will see that this is maybe a little bit more boring than the second one. Check this out. So a lot of beginners might think this is a good way to cut to the music because they're still cutting on that beat. But now let's check out the second edit and notice how it's still cutting on the beat, but it's cutting on different parts of the beat and with those little different pockets that we've been mentioning. So check out this one and hopefully you'll agree it's a lot more interesting. That's way more engaging and interesting, right? So you just have to remember that if it's cutting at the same part every time, the viewer expects that cut, they know where it's coming, and it's boring. Also, some of your clips aren't gonna hold that value. Subconsciously, if you play a clip for longer, the viewer's gonna think that that particular scene is of significance or importance. And if there isn't enough value in that clip to back that, the viewer's gonna feel uneasy and weird and like, meh. Why is this clip playing for so long? So think about where your clips need to be placed, which ones deserve to be held out for a little bit longer. Maybe they got more action going on them, or maybe they just like a really beautiful view or something. And then some clips that don't deserve to be held that long, put those in little quick pockets. Just create that nice pacing throughout your whole video, and it's gonna really hold that viewer's attention and make it way more interesting for them to watch. Tip 4 is gonna be adding fake motion to your clips in post-production. Have you ever had like a little edit where you're editing all these clips together and you're getting this really nice flow going to your edit using some of the tips that we've been mentioning before in this, and then you've got this super dope shot which absolutely has to go into the edit, but you put it in and your edit just stops because this next shot has no motion in it. Maybe it was like a tripod shot, or maybe all of your shots have been going in one direction before and then this one's just still, and all of a sudden your edit just like halts. There's something that you can do if you absolutely still have to have this clip in your video, and that's add that fake motion afterwards in Premiere Pro or whatever software you guys are using. For example, you can add some punching in, like to match your other clips, or you can add a slow zoom out. You can move left to right or up and down. You can get really creative with it. You can even create a handheld look with like some plugins in Premiere. But basically, if you guys are wanting to do this, you are gonna just have to do some basic like animation keyframing in your Premiere or whatever software you guys are using. Don't be scared of this if you haven't done it before. Once you figure it out, it's actually really easy to do. But let me show you guys here just a couple of examples and you guys can understand what I'm talking about. Checking this first shot, as it plays out here, there's actually no motion in this shot. Now what we're gonna do is we can add in these keyframes, and we can make our first one start with 100%, and then our second one we can actually zoom in a little bit and then move it down here to the end of the clip. So as we play this out, now all of a sudden there's gonna be a slow movement on our clip and it's gonna punch in like that. You could do the same thing where it zooms out by just swapping where each keyframe is gonna be. The first one would have to be zoomed in. You can also do this moving side to side or up and down. You're gonna have to first zoom in a little bit so that you have more of the outside frame to work with, and then go to those motion keyframes and move them either left to right or up and down like that. Something to note with this is you don't wanna zoom in too much because you're cropping into that image and you're gonna be losing data. You can do this more if, for example, you filmed in a higher resolution like 4K and your final video is only gonna be 1080 or normal HD. You can punch in a lot more because you have all of that extra video to work with. But if you are only having 1080, You can still punch in a little bit in my opinion. No one's gonna notice. Don't do anything crazy, just like 20% or something like that, and you should be good to go. I definitely don't think that anyone is gonna notice it, especially if you're just making videos for YouTube or something like that. This is a great way to also match clips movement like we were mentioning earlier. If you have one shot that is moving left to right and then your next shot is just still, you can add that left to right movement in your second shot and they're gonna flow really nice together. I do this so often with punching in or out actually. Sometimes I'll even have a shot that does have some sort of movement in it. Maybe it's like moving left to right, but I also want it to punch in or out slowly while it's doing that original movement that I captured in camera. And I'll hop over into here and I'll just add that little bit of movement. It makes the shot so much more dynamic. Now there's like another part of movement, and also if the next shot is going to be doing something moving in or out, or the previous shot was moving in and out, I'll just match that and then it all of a sudden flows into those next clips really nicely. It's all about that flow. I keep talking about flow. The next tip is going to be tip 5. And that is actually just cutting down your video and being relentless with your clips once you think your video is actually finished. Most of the time when I see a video from beginners, it's a really good first pass and they have some really good stuff going on in that video. But what you want to do now is go over that a few more times and just be relentless with those clips. Cut them out if they aren't absolutely essential or don't really bring extra value to that video. This can be super hard. I know, like when you out filming, for example, you might spend a lot of time and energy into getting a certain shot, but it might just not turn out that good for the edit, or it might just not fit into the edit that well. And unfortunately, the viewer is not going to notice how hard you worked on that shot, nor are they even going to care, even if they did notice. If it doesn't make your video better and doesn't add to the overall feeling of that video, cut it out, shorten the whole thing, get rid of all the fat. It's gonna make your whole video so much more punchy and enjoyable when all of those extra bits are gone. I suggest doing multiple passes on the same edit, just cutting everything out. Maybe step away from the edit for a while and come back later on and look at it again and see what you could get rid of. Sometimes I'll edit a video that's like 6 or 7 minutes long and I'll cut it down to like 3 minutes or even less. And what ends up happening is when you have that final edit, the only shots that are left on there are the absolute best shots, the cream of the crop, and it makes your video turn out way better. Another way where this applies is actually to each individual clip. For example, if you have a clip that you really love the way it turned out, it's got some awesome action in it or something, instead of using that whole clip, you can use the whole clip, but sometimes what I like to do is cut that clip down and like really only have a tiny piece of that clip. Even if I cut it right in the middle of like the best part of the clip, what this does is it creates like an interest for the viewer, because instead of them watching out a whole clip and getting bored of that clip by the end of it and then it changes to the next clip, what you've done is like you've got the viewer's attention. It's amazing in that clip. Someone's like about to do something really cool, and then as they're doing it, like it kind of cuts halfway through it and it goes to the next clip, and it like creates that wanting more from the viewer. They see that one, next one, and it's interesting again, and then you cut it just as they were getting interested into that next shot, and you just keep them hungry for new clips and new things, and you get them going in that cycle. That is so much better than having one drawn out clip that you really like or that took you a really long time to film, where the viewer is just watching it and then they're like, cool, seen that now, next clip, and then like it cuts. Keep fast, keep your edit flowing. The viewer is going to be sucked into that screen. They're not going to be able to look away, and that's what you want out of your video edits. That's going to be it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed some of these tips. If you want to pick up my LUTs, they are linked down in the description. I use them to edit all of my videos, and it's a great way that you guys can get some really professional, rich looking colors in your videos with just like a click. They're still 25% off, so grab them if you guys are interested. Other than that, that's going to be it for this one. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to see more videos like this, hit subscribe, and I will see you guys in next week's video. Peace.